Thank you so much. So I want to invite you tonight onto a journey with me on how I discovered that modern-day slavery happens here in Australia. I know it can be really shocking, right? If you're anything like me, back in the day, I was thinking this only happens overseas. But in 2008, I went over to live in Berlin in Germany as a diplomat's wife. And I thought, well, this is going to be fun. Lots of drinking, lots of parties, dinner parties and representing our country. So I was looking forward to 4 years of great fun. But after a while, it started really well, don't get me wrong, it was great for about 4 or 5 months, but eventually I thought, no, I can't keep doing this. Drinking for Australia is fun and being paid to do it. However, it was more of a case of I need some purpose in my life. So I decided that I would find some purpose by volunteering. And I found myself volunteering in a little street in the back streets of Berlin called Kurfürstenstrasse. And what it can only be explained as like a needle exchange and a cafe, I suppose. But this was for women who had experienced slavery or had been tricked and trafficked from Eastern Europe into Berlin thinking they're going to get real jobs, but instead they're being sold for sex. You can imagine the hypocrisy of my life for the next 3 years. While my daytime, I'm mopping the blood and the bruises and helping someone recover from a night's abuse, while I had been out drinking and celebrating and partying as a diplomat's wife. So it changed my life forever. I will never be able to unsee what I saw in that dark street, an evil street, there's no question about it. And I just knew I had to do something. So when I came back to Australia, I was really sort of pondering, what could I do? And a friend of mine said to me, well, why don't you help people who are in slavery in Australia? Well, I just, what? You've got to be kidding me. There is no way slavery happens in Australia. Anyway, she insisted it did, and I thought, well, I'll look into this. And so that was the beginning of my journey in trying to set up what is now the Freedom Hub. The shocking figure for everybody, just get ready for this, that the current estimate is 41,000 people in slavery in Australia every single day, right? It's a shocking figure and it shouldn't happen in our country. Like Fiona. Fiona was saved all her life, or saved for many, many years. She wanted to come to Australia to improve her restaurant management skills for Westerners from her country. So she came and saved up her money to come here. She's picked up at the airport by her employer, which is lovely. Great start, very excited. He took her passport off her for administrative purposes and then put her in the car and drove for miles and miles and miles. She had no idea where she was going or where she was, but she was so excited because she had this great new job where she's going to learn to be a restaurant manager. On arrival, the promised accommodation was at the back of the restaurant, and it was a mattress on the floor of a dirty, dusty, spider-ridden garage. And as that door shut behind her, it was locked for 5 years. All she had was a bucket to pee in and food scraps from the restaurant to eat, and she was brought out of that garage into the restaurant very late at night or in the early hours just to clean all the dishes and to clean. Shocking, isn't it? And we have many, many like that. So where does slavery happen in Australia? I'm going to answer the questions that I know you all want to hear. So the first one is, where does it happen? How is this happening in our country? It happens in every single industry, from people that are being bussed in at night to the high-rise buildings in cities to clean all night where no one can see them, to people who are preparing our food in restaurants, to people who are sewing our clothes, washing our cars, building our buildings. It's in every single industry. Mostly migrant people who have come to do the jobs that we Australians don't want to do. And they come here thinking they've got a great chance at life to be able to earn some decent money. It shouldn't happen in our country. I'm going to keep saying that because it's my passion. But it shouldn't be happening here. So they're either migrants or they're clever students that have come to study at our universities to learn more, and they've been tricked and trafficked. We also have third-generation Australian girls or young, at school that are told they're not going to go to university. They're going to marry grandma's culture, and so they're being forced into marriage. And then particularly since COVID, we've always had it, but since COVID it's even worse. We now have a lot of women and men, but we have mainly women, who are now trapped within their own home because they're not allowed out and they're in a coercive and physical abusive relationship with no freedom, no bank account, no phones, can't go out. That is pure slavery, that's servitude. So many of them have so much fear that they're paralysed or to run, they can't leave, or they've been threatened, their family are being threatened, their children are being threatened, or they're being told complete lies about their future in our country with visas. So that's a lot of the reasons that they don't run. So it's no wonder that only 1 in 5 come forward. So our 41,000 statistic is quite underestimated. So I worked up the courage after about a year of research finding out about slavery. I worked up the courage to start my own charity. Now, I'm not qualified to run charities. I'm not a lawyer or a social worker or anything like that, but I realised that I needed to do something, and everybody really, I hope, will want to do something after tonight. I started the Freedom Hub, which is with a survivor school that would help these survivors rebuild their lives. To start with, we onboard them with trauma-informed experience methodology to help them feel safe and trusted. They don't want to talk to police. They don't want to talk about perpetrators and the crime. They want to actually know that they're safe. Then we rebuild their lives through wellness and social activities and things that will help them get over their trauma. Then they are ready to thrive through our courses that get them ready to go back into the workforce. And finally, we put them into, we help them succeed by putting them into employment partners, people that we have screened that are safe and are partnered with us to employ them and give them a step at their first chance back at the workplace. And we have a massive alumni. We have about 150 survivors here in Australia, in Sydney. We've got people in Queensland and in Melbourne as well. And so it's growing, and it's absolutely great to know that we can make a difference through this school. Fiona, having been through our program, she ended up studying really hard, working really hard at her English, getting herself so that she was partnered with one of our organisations to do data entry and save up money. The great news is that she's now running her own restaurant, which is fabulous, and it's an incredible recovery, and she's lobbying for women's rights. She actually gets up on stages and speaks. I can tell you that's scary. This should not be happening in Australia. I hope you agree. I believe, and my team believe, we could be the first country in the world to have no slavery. This is an opportunity tonight for you to be engaged in that. We don't need to rely on governments that are broken and systems that are broken, and we shouldn't be depending on governments around the world to be solving community problems. We can all do something to make a difference. So tonight I'm actually asking for $30,000 to clear our waiting lists, and every $5,000 over that is actually going to help us take on more survivors and help more people. So I hope you will join me. We have survivors that are waiting. That's critical. We have a team that are willing. We have a model that works. The question is, are you ready to help us do something? Thank you.
Sally, stay here for a moment.